16-year-old Ismail Mohammed was killed by the bullet of the Nigerian Army. That's the one thing that looks like we're not in doubt about. But the circumstances of his killing is another conversation, whilst the Army has given their statement, saying that he was killed mistakenly when they shot warning shots into the air. His family alleges that he was followed to his house and shot through the door. These are one of the stories we'll be looking at today, and also taking what Nigerians are saying in reaction to this. My name is Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogban. Really sad story there we're starting with this morning. And, once again, calls to question the value of the Nigerian life, which I did, of course, ask yesterday. How much valuable is the average Nigerian life? And are there punitive measures when things like this happen? In any part of the country, does Mr. President, care enough to ensure that that family gets justice? Of course, along with other families that may have been affected by loss of life during the course of the End Bad Governance protest, regardless of how the government feels about the protest. Those things will come up in our conversations this morning, along with the federal government's move to blacklist and, of course, to track down the sponsors of the End Bad Governance protest. Bayo Onanuga, first of all, of course, blaming Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate, and the IPOB, and then eventually saying that it had identified some foreign sponsors of the protest. And so these conversations will come up. I did say yesterday that, the government still fails to recognize the presence of hunger and frustration and lack of employment and jobs across Nigeria as one of the main reasons for the protest. That part is still, is still something that they've completely ignored. They act like it doesn't exist. Even if, they once in a while will throw it into their statements. I know things are hard. There's that part. And then at the same time, it's the same government who's calling for dialogue and has been asking for dialogue that has now decided to take these steps and name certain people as sponsors of the protest and say that they will have their bank accounts frozen. And if they ever come into Nigeria, they will be picked up by the DSS and security. Exactly.
It's a very interesting, conversation. And yesterday, I remember, I think one thing that was very interesting in our show yesterday was how we had a guest who was trying to define who a protest funder is or what it means to fund the protest with very interesting analogies. We're joined this morning by Omoyele Sowore, who has been at the forefront of these conversations to share exactly what his thoughts are regarding this protest. And also to share, we saw the video that went viral of a clip of him dispersing those who were supporting, they were having a meeting, I believe in Washington, and he scattered, quote unquote, the meeting. So we hope that he can shed some clarity as to that and what his thoughts are regarding this. But away from that, I don't know if I should say this on a much lighter note. Whilst the president was being criticized for his speech on the 4th of August, because many Nigerians said that it did not feel like he understood the plight of the Nigerian people or that he connected to the pain of the Nigerian people. His social media team, I believe, decided to take the initiative to post a clip on his Twitter page, on his X page, and it was a speech of him giving a speech, seemingly sympathetic and saying, that these are hard decisions and he understands. And there was even an ensuing thread after that explaining a few things, only for us to then see that the special advisor to the president on media then put out another tweet saying that was an old video. So yeah. What exactly is going on with the president's media team?
I believe that there is, and it basically creates a picture of how the country is being run. There doesn't seem to be, proper synchronization amongst the people who are handling Mr. President's affairs. It also will make you question if Mr. President is getting, factual statements as to the reality of the Nigerian situation. So amongst themselves, from Bayo Onanuga to Ajuri Ngalale to whoever else, that might be personally responsible for the president's social media pages, there seems to be issues amongst themselves. And that's why, we find these things happen. If you remember, not long ago, there was a statement that was put out by Bayo Onanuga supposedly from the presidency. Ajuri Ngalale, the next day or 2 days later, came and countered that statement. So you can tell that there is some issue here and there. Another thing that I will point out, and I had the conversation with someone yesterday, which I felt was also very telling, and I have asked about it before, which is, why does it seem like the APC presidents we've had so far are so scared of the media? What is this hydra-headed dragon that the media seems to represent for APC president that makes them really never want to have media chats and media briefings and have proper conversations with the media. If you look at what the United States does, it may not necessarily be President Joe Biden, every time, but he has his press statements every day.
Yes, he's
every
giving
single
with
day.
The press and he's
you can say that they're liars, they hide a lot of their propagandists, whatever you want to say, but they have it every day.
And I quite agree with you. That'd be great for us to have that kind of situation where we have the president or his team having conversations with journalists. And what a number of people have talked about is it'd be great to have a conversation that is not scripted, where it feels like. And that's what being in the room with journalists would mean. It would mean that you'll be able to answer questions on the go that bring some level of sincerity to the conversation. But just to say that the special advisor to the president on information and strategy needs to, go back and do a lot of work, because it's not a good look that one minute we're seeing a tweet from the president, and the next minute you're coming to counter it to say that it's an old clip.
And it would be great to have a president that can actually answer live questions.
It would be great, actually.
Not anything pre-recorded.
Because that's something
live
that helps
questions,
you feel connected.
Exactly.
To
on everything.
To the citizens.
Let's share his ideas. Let him share his ideas on every single thing Nigeria is dealing with.
All right. Now let's share our top stories this morning to let you know what the conversations this morning will look like. Federal government puts #hunger protest sponsors on watch list. We'll be joined by Omoyele Showori as well to talk about this. And protest groups embrace dialogue, reiterate demands. And still looking at the protests, these are one of the topics that I'll be having. Then the Southeast is another place we're stopping, where the governors praise indigenes for the boycott of the hunger protest. And we head to Zaria, where the family of the deceased boy Ismail Mohammed, allegedly shot by a soldier, demand justice. We'll review the newspaper front pages with you, opening the phone lines for you to joining as well. But now let's take breakfast headlines.
And now we begin breakfast headlines with updates on the End Bad Governance protest. The Nigerian Army has detained a soldier for allegedly killing a 16-year-old boy, Ismail Mohammed, while attempting to stop hoodlums from causing mayhem in Samaru-Zaria in Kaduna State on Tuesday. The Director of Army Public Relations, Onyema Nwachukwu, released a statement in Abuja detailing the incident. Nwachukwu said troops received a distress call about a large gathering of hoodlums in the Samaru area of Zaria. The hoodlums were reportedly burning tires and pelting stones at security personnel. Nwachukwu said in response, the troops mobilized immediately, arriving at the scene to disperse the mob and enforce the curfew imposed by the state government. And in the meantime, the family of late Ismail Mohammed, the 16-year-old teenager shot by personnel of the Nigerian Army during the 24-hour curfew in Samaru-Zaria, says they want justice and compensation for the killing of their son. Speaking with News Central's correspondent at their residence in Zaria, Kaduna State, the father of the deceased, Mohammed Husseini, alleged that Army personnel on duty shot at many homes around their community, which led to the death of their son.
The money was given to me. He said I should use the money. He gave me 300,000 naira. He says personally on his own, not compensation. He said I should use the money to buy pure water, but not compensation. He didn't compensate us. That rumor is not true. Yes.
Market, sitting beside one shop, my friend's shop. We were there at the market and Samaru was peacefully, but we heard that what happened around the Zaria metropolitan and mobsters gang and broke other places, but nothing happened in Samaru actually. So we are sitting down, but we heard that there is curfew in Zaria and Kaduna and other places. So we are just sitting down, everybody in his shop, doing everything is going fine. Then this army now came into Samaru. They came to Samaru market. They started chasing people around, that everybody should lock the shop and go back home. So while we are doing so, I was even standing in the front of the shop. One of the army officers came to me that I should lock up my shop so that I should go home. I did that. I locked up the shop. On my way coming home, the guy just passed me. He went straight to a place where we call Kaswandere. He fired a warning shot. He shot on the ground. From there, I now came back home. I stood with my friends and my brothers and what have you. We were just standing there, and we now saw an army close to market. They blocked one guy on motorcycle. They started hitting him. While we are watching, the soldier now turned around. He saw us gathering, watching what is happening. He now comes into the street. From there, he just come inside. He now met one old man that is repairing shoe. He told the man that, Baba, can you park and go home? The man told him, no, I cannot do that because I'm here protecting my business. He now walked up again. He met one man sitting by his house. He now told the man, he told his children to go back inside the house. And he now passed. From there, he cocked his gun. He met some old men also sitting down. He asked them, Baba, please go inside. They said, no, we are at our home. We are not going anywhere. Me and my brothers, we are standing close to my house with some of my friends. He now passed us. He looked at us and shook his head. He just walked straight. Those boys that are just standing there, they are just standing here. When they saw him from afar, they ran away. Two of them entered the house. The remaining entered this house. They locked up the house. In our own eye, we now saw him walk through the door. He just gave two shots to the house, and he now turned. When he saw him turn, we now run and enter our house. When we come out, we said that, why would this guy shot to the house? And nothing happened. And these children did nothing to him. They are just standing. When they saw him, they ran away into the house. So now, after 5 minutes, his brother now came from the house crying.
In the meantime, a journalist was harassed by thugs on Wednesday while covering the End Bad Governance protest in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Reports say a group of thugs stationed themselves directly across from the Federal Secretariat, intimidating and driving away both journalists and protesters. Witnesses claim that two protesters were assaulted while police officers on the scene took no action. The thugs reportedly stated their intent to prevent any protest activities from occurring.
Luckily I came here exactly as you are landing, and all I see are policemen and probably people there protesting. I listened to that report. I give you my words, I'm going to find out what really happened here. But I'm aware that hoodlums have hijacked this protest from them. That I'm aware of. They have a lot of people moving around with them, harassing members of the public. About 1 hour ago, we just arrested 3 people who went around stealing POS among the protesters. We have thugs. We have people who have been stealing wipers from people's vehicles. They have been trying to burn tires everywhere, and policemen have been going immediately to extinguish them. So these are not protesters. Thugs are among them. So if thugs are here, maybe they came with them or something like that. But I give you my word, I'm going to investigate, and I will give you feedback about what I found.
And away from Nigeria, Comoros President Azali Assoumani has granted new powers to his son in a move that critics said on Wednesday is a step towards consolidating the family's rule over the small African island nation. A decree published on Tuesday reinforced the role of government of Noor El Fat Azali, requiring that all decrees issued by ministers and governors must now on be approved by the government secretary general before they are officially published and enacted. Noor El Fat, who is Assoumani's eldest son, was appointed Secretary General in July. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. We, of course, now move back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
Certain civil society groups, including Accountability Lab Nigeria, Yaga Africa, and the Public and Private Development Center, have called on the government to engage with protesters and address their demands. The group of organizations have criticized the president's August 4th address, stating that his speech failed to address the core demands of Nigerians. The civil society groups noted that the president highlighted medium to long-term policies to improve the economy, but also ignored immediate demands such as reducing hunger, cost of living, insecurity, corruption, and implementing their NSAS recommendations.
Now, while they welcome dialogue, they encourage the federal government to begin its dialogue by releasing all arrested protesters and initiate sanctions against security agents who attacked the protesters. Joining us is the Chief Executive Officer of Public and Private Development, PPDC Center, Jubril Shitu. Good morning, Mr. Shitu.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good to have you. Let's, first of all, start with, your views on the idea of dialogue between the Nigerian government and the protesters and those, of course, who have championed the protest. Are you all for that dialogue at this stage?
Yes, but I think I would first start with reading the room, which is to acknowledge the fact that a few people have died as a result of these protests. I don't think that either any family or anyone's father or mother or even sibling would love to have someone peacefully protest and, end up dying as a result of that protest. So my condolences to those families, and also kudos to the Nigerian Army for acknowledging, because we've seen, at least during the NSAS protest, there was a denial of the role of certain actors. So we acknowledge that. But very importantly, the nation as we have it cannot afford any situation where we have either a truncation of our democratic destiny or a devolving of this situation into anarchy. And it's very clear. One thing that the president came out with, which is very well acknowledged by everyone, is that there should be a dialogue. But one thing that was not so clear was, where is the dialogue starting from? Who has been appointed to oversee the dialogue? And that's something that it will be very useful, especially for those that are looking to engage with the government and to ensure that some of these demands, as you are aware, there are so many demands out there. But what we've tried to do is to encourage a harmonization of those demands, which is why when you look at the statement, it acknowledges the president's areas of focus, particularly where he talked about education and looking at agriculture. But there are some other areas which Nigerians in general really yearn for, and for which they are demanding answers. They are demanding answers to insecurity. They are demanding answers to hunger, which is an immediate need. So it's not the long-term focus, but just the immediate need of hunger. How are we addressing it? Of course, we've heard about the 20 trucks per state that was shared across all 36 states of the Federation, but more details, and I think that would really assuage the concerns of Nigerians. And I say that these concerns are well placed. So let's have the president, give further directives as to who should be leading these dialogues, and let's also have a way forward for Nigerians, which focuses not just on the long term, but on the short and immediate terms.
All right, and how do you suggest that the president communicates this new policies that you're suggesting be implemented immediately? Would you maybe have him make an address? Are you maybe open to the idea that we should have a conversation, a one-on-one conversation where the president is addressing Nigerians off script, maybe not the typical scripts, because there have been people who've criticized that, saying that it's a bit rigid. Maybe having a press briefing of some sort where he can answer questions on the go. Is that something that you think would be a great tool, or are there other suggestions you might have?
I think the president has addressed the nation, and one thing that Nigerians have complained about is that there seems to be a disconnect between the reality of the average Nigerian versus the commitments of governments as a whole. And let's recognize that there are 3 tiers of government. But of course, the federal government plays a significant role, especially when it comes to certain policies like the security of the nation. The federal government has that sole responsibility. The police is centralized, the armed forces are centralized. So when we say we're addressing hunger, for instance, insecurity is a major component of that hunger that Nigerians are facing. And when you look at the situation, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, from the northeast even to the northwest, you have a huge number of out-of-school children, you have a large number of IDPs, and you have, bandits all over the place causing mayhem and trying to divide the country. So what we need is that the president, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and the president, in his capacity, can give the directives. But let's hear the directives. He can issue the directive to the Secretary General of the Federation, to the ministers. He has 47 ministers, so he can issue the directive to any one of them. But let's have the dialogue moving and let's have those active recommendations reaching the president from the dialogue. And that's what we are asking for. The president has come out to address the nation twice. And I think that that's good communication. Twice within 1 week, although belated, but better late than never. But what we are saying is, irrespective of how this particular group is constituted, the president has issued a directive. Let's begin to see action. And that's what Nigerians are talking about. When we talk about the cost of governance.
It depends on what you call a directive. I think there's some disparity between what the protesters have demanded and what the president said in his speech. He's addressed Nigerians once, not twice, by the way. The second video that you saw, was Bayo Nanigo responded yesterday and said that that's an old video. So they, within their team, they're not even sure who posted the video, why the video was posted, and what it hoped to achieve amongst themselves. But the point is, the president has addressed Nigerians once, and the response that we've seen is that a lot of Nigerians do not agree with any of the things that he said. He still sounds like he's campaigning. He doesn't sound like he is detailing proper response to the demands of the protesters. There is that, one hand. Another thing is, we have a situation where Nigerians are at a very, very interesting stage with regards protesting. It started with the End SARS protest, the whole idea of we don't have any leaders. These are our demands as a people, and these are the things that we want the government to sort out. Pretty much the same thing happening now. Do you think that there is even anybody to represent the protesters? If people come out tomorrow and say, oh, we are speaking on behalf of the protesters, and Nigerians generally say, we don't know you, we don't recognize you, we didn't ask you to agree on anything, whatever it is that you're agreeing with, Mr. President, is none of our business. Until Mr. President makes these moves, none of your dialogue or negotiations are relevant to us. What happens then?
Well, I'm not to speak for many Nigerians, but one thing that is very clear is I think that we are honest and we are reasonable people. If we see governance happening, if we see some genuine efforts on the part of government to address the concerns, I'm sure that the reaction from the population will be very clear to support whatever efforts, how genuine they may seem, on the part of government. But what we've seen, and I think that that's where the anger is coming from, what we've seen is that rather than address the issues of the cost of governance, we see more ministries being created, we see more development commissions being created, we see purchases for the executive that one really questions whether we are trying to navigate our way into a country that is better for the average Nigerian, or if we're having a country that is serving just a few pockets. So I think Nigerians are genuine enough to be able to decide for themselves. But let me address the issue of leadership in the protest. When we talk about having leaders in the protest, I wonder and I ask, what really do we mean by that? Because when you look at the statements that came out from the Inspector General of Police, he said those that were interested in coordinating protest movements should register and should inform the police, and they did that. And by the way, all that is needed is that if I'm a Nigerian, if I'm concerned about the country, I have every right to peacefully protest. So in the first instance, I don't necessarily need to go join a group to say I want to protest. I could protest in my own way. But fine, if there are groups that are to coordinate themselves, and we have such groups, we have various movements. There is a Adeyanju Deji, that is one of the protest leaders. We have a Take It Back movement, and there are several other groups that have come out to say, well, we are the ones that are coordinating these protests. So again, when we talk about legitimacy, I don't think Nigeria belongs to any particular individual. Nigeria belongs to all of us. And if there are individuals that voice out the collective concerns, yearnings, and aspirations of the larger population, no matter how poorly framed they may be, I think it's very important that we engage. We understand what the issues are, and the government, provides appropriate response. Nigerians decide for themselves whether or not the response is sufficient, and I think that the fact that we have Nigerians on the streets or either staying back at home and not really going to work, speaks volumes about how the protest concerns have been addressed. Again, if you are looking at prominent individuals in the society to say, okay, maybe this might be a benchmark for determining who, is on the side of those that are protesting or not. You've heard from prominent Nigerians. You've heard from Femi Falana. You've heard from Professor Wole Soyinka. And they've spoken out and they've clearly outlined what they would like to see as the government's response. So again, I think that we should move away from this, idea of having leaders in the protest. We have concerns. The question should be, are these genuine concerns? If yes, have governments sufficiently addressed these concerns, looking at it from the short term to the medium term to the long term? And let's move away from some of these narratives that are not really helpful for us. Of course, one of such other narratives is the narrative of, oh, some people are trying to promote military takeover. Let's be very clear. Nigeria as a country, we've come very far in our democratic journey. And I don't think the average Nigerian wants that to change. And we've seen the reactions to some of those flags, even from, the protesters on the ground. So let's move away. It's just like going to the market. You get to the market and you're saying you want to turn back because somebody is selling okrika in the market. You don't turn back because somebody is selling okrika. You go to the market and you look at what you are trying to buy.
Oh, wow.
You buy what you want to buy from the market and you move.
All right, Mr.
So
Shitu.
let's focus on the issues and let's abandon some of these unhelpful narratives.
Some would argue that the whole narrative about people trying to overthrow the president and whatnot, are really just the Nigerian government's choice of words and choice of interpretation of the protest in order to maybe clamp down on it. But I also want to ask about the whole news about the Nigerian government putting people on a watch list. The foreign sponsors of the protests and whatnot, including, I believe, Omoyele Sowore, on the watch list. How does that help with the idea of dialogue and the idea of meeting in the middle between the government and the people?
I think that we really need to have governments focus on the issues. So, yes, of course, there's the dynamic where Omoyele Sowore, has been an active an actively engaged citizen, but there's also the other part that any average Nigerian in diaspora who has family that is supporting back home, maybe I'm a worker in UK, I'm someone in the US, I'm sending remittances, and let's look at diaspora remittances. Diaspora remittances exceed 20 billion per annum. So would you then say that someone in diaspora cannot comment on the national issues, or that he has to travel all the way back home because it's until you are back home that you can speak on the issues? I think that that's counterproductive to what we are trying to achieve. But if there are security concerns, and we've heard the DSS talk about some of these intelligence reports that they received before the start of the protest, one would have expected that the security agencies, and the DSS in particular, should have gone and engaged those people that are trying to cause chaos and trying to ensure that there is violence, while those that are peaceful and organizing themselves peacefully are engaging with the government on the real issues that the average Nigerian is facing. Let's not forget, insecurity is an issue. Hunger is an issue. It's a real issue. Corruption is an issue. The government's waste is an issue. So again, if there are security concerns, the security agencies should do their job. And I'm really happy to see, I've seen some of the videos where, you see a policeman trying to shoot, and another security agency is saying, no, don't shoot at unarmed protesters. But beyond that, on both sides, if there are citizens that are trying to cause violence, that are trying to, upturn our democratic journey, they should be brought to justice. Likewise, if there are security agencies or if there are security agents that have violated the law, that have shot at protesters, they should also be held accountable.
All right.
We can't fix ourselves in hard narratives and not look at the big picture here. The big picture is, are we trying to address the issues? Are there real issues to be addressed?
I mean, the next couple of days or maybe weeks, maybe even months would tell, how far and how well the idea of a dialogue will go. But of course, there are things that are definitely certain, which is that the president, at this point, must take necessary steps to put calm across the country. If he has to dialogue, let him dialogue. And of course, their approach towards the people that they term protest sponsors will also determine how well that goes. Thank you very much for your time this morning. We'd love to speak with you again pretty soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now
Cheers.
we take the conversation from here to Zaria, where Ismail Mohammed, the 16-year-old teenager, shot by personnel of the Nigerian Army during the 24-hour curfew in Samaru-Zaria, says they want justice and compensation for the killing of their son. Speaking with News Central's correspondent at their residence in Samaru-Zaria, Kaduna State, the father of the deceased, Mohammed Hussaini, alleged that the army personnel on duty shot at many homes around their community, which led to the death of their son. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
This is the residence of late Ismail Mohammed, who was allegedly shot by an officer of the Nigerian Army, who is now deceased. Now, apart from him, there was another person that was also shot during the patrol. He's here with me, and he's going to tell us how he's feeling. He was actually shot on the leg, just by his left right foot. Yeah, that's the injury. And he's just going to speak to us about how he's currently feeling.
Right now, I'm feeling pains around my body, my shoulder, my head, because he was busy kicking me with the gun, and also used his leg to pack me.
The mourning period for Ismail may take a longer time for obvious reasons. This is because of the circumstances that led to his death.
I'm just at the entrance of the deceased Ismail Mohammed home, who was shot by the officers and men of one of the officers of the Nigerian Army during the patrol. Now, this is the hole where the bullet penetrated, and that's the second hole, live bullets, and of course the bullet started from the main door here.
Eyewitnesses recount with pains the alleged shooting spree by officers of the Nigerian Army on the community, which led to the death of the teenager.
Sai girgiza kai har ya taho ya juya zai tafi sai ƙara tahowa sai zo kan gada sai ya tsaya akan gadan da ya tsaya akan gadan sai hangi yara sun taho nan mutane irin sun taho da gudu fa sai ya taho da gudu shi ma da jogin chap muna magana ni da wani abokina na wai gone kawai sai na ganshi a tsaya a kofar gidan nan yayi harbi pa sai ce kai gayan can fa harbi yake yi fa.
Na fito ni da yara na small kid da Siyama da Aiman. Da na fito, I saw the soldier coming, yana zuwa towards daga market. Da yana zuwa, I was like, saboda na san cewa army ba za in ka shiga gida, they will not shoot you. Za su zo su hitin kofa ne, in is locked, they will go back. So da ya zo, I was thinking in ya zo zai hitin kofar ne ya shigo, sai na ga abin ya canza totally, because da ya zo, he shoot at the door twice. When he shoot at the door, the elder brother wanda aka kashe din, we are inside the house.
Mun taho nan mun shiga gida sai wani ya tsaya sa sakata. Ni ina nan gun a tsaye, kanina na nan kusa da wana ya duka yana sa sakata. Sai na ji karan harbi. Ban san wanda ya sama ba, kanina ya sama a wuya, sai harbin da ya yi na biyun shine da ya sama jikin bangon nan. Fallatsin sai ya sama na shiga gida da gudu. Bullet biyu ne sai na shiga gida da gudu, shi ma wana ya biyo ya shiga gida da gudu. Sai muna cikin gida muka ga ba mu ga kanin ba. Ina fitowa na ganshi nan gurin a kwanci ya fasa mai makogaro da bullet jini na fitan mai a wuya. Kuma sun ce wai ya fito wai ya jefe su ƙarya ne.
Despite being bereaved, the late Ismail's father gave his own side of the story.
Decent person ne kuma shi loyal, very class boy, kuma educated boy, very intelligent. Yana makaranta zai shiga SS1 yanzu. I co attempt. Shi bai san hayaniya ma shi. Mu ba mu taba yi a Samaru ma. Gaba ɗaya Samaru tun da aka fara up to date ba a yi wani zanga-zanga ba. Ba wani hayaniya da aka yi a Samaru. Ba abin da ya faru. Su kullun suna gida, kullun suna shago daga umar gida sai shagon su. To sun dai faɗa. Amma dai mu muna expecting dai su mana adalci kuma su biya mu diya yaran mu. Yawwa, kawai ni abin da zan iya faɗa kenan.
The Nigerian Army says it has arrested the soldier alleged to have been responsible for the situation. While they have expressed their regrets to the family, They have also promised to visit the family on Wednesday. In Zaria, Kaduna State, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
That's a very sad story there. We'll be talking more about it much later when we head to the streets of X to find out what Nigerians have seen about the story.
I think it's also important to mention that no amount of money, because I hear the boy's father asking for compensation, but it's fair to mention that no amount of money will ever bring Ismail back.
Yes,
but at
no
least they
amount of
should
money.
get the justice that they seek.
I hope that they do get the justice. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we have more conversations. Stay with us. The southeast region of Nigeria has abstained from participating in the End Bad Governance protest, and quite noticeably too. It said that in the last couple of days, the development comes on the heels of recent tensions and calls for Igbos to leave other parts of Nigeria. Now, compared to the northern turnout, SBM intelligence reports that there were no protests in states like Abia, Imo, Anambra on day one of the protest, and records of same on subsequent days.
Now, SBM intelligence reports suggest that there is a significant fear that Igbo involvement in the protest could be misinterpreted as rebellion, or their activism could be labeled as an attempt to overthrow the government or make it uncomfortable. Joining us is the former secretary to the Abia State government and former commissioner for information Abia State, Honorable Ralph Igbu. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Honorable.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me this morning.
You're welcome. All right, so let's start first of all with your broad perspective on the reason the Southeast was quiet during the End Bad Governance protest.
Well, I would think it's an erroneous position being put out there that Southeast didn't participate or opted out. That may not be entirely true. The picture, because I live in the Southeast myself and I'm a political player, in-depth political player, will be the fact that, let me come a little low and I hope our listeners will understand. Zebrudeya says, I know you know the popular Zebrudeya play. He said he has seen 99, what is 100? The people of the zone have become very used to hardship. Since after the Civil War, when the Nigerian state declared the 3 R's, they said the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and which other one? The 3 R's. None was ever implemented. None. We can see the speed with which the federal government, especially under Buhari administration, created the Northeast Development Commission, and to say bring quick rehabilitation to a place that the issues of banditry and insurgency is yet to be abated. But in the Southeast, yes, they were defeated in a civil war where they wanted them to be Nigerians. And as I speak, nearly 64 years or about 63 years after that civil war, the Southeast is on record to have the worst state of infrastructure. The roads are so terrible. The electricity connections and stations are the most dilapidated you can find anywhere in the world. No industries except those raised by the local population. Nothing at all. So it's not like they said they won't participate. Sometimes there is power in silence. You remember they have been agitating and they said they call it, what do you call it, secession. And we are leaders. I am part of the leadership, called leadership of the Igbo people. And when the young ones say a secession, we know, we who play politics know that there's nothing like secession. It can be the highest level of anger. And how do perceptive leaders who want to build a nation state address it? You address it by saying, okay, come, let's talk.
Honorable Ibu, apologies. I just want to, clarify. Yes. Are you saying that the Southeast participated, but through silence, or they are maybe just focused on other things?
Silence. There's potency. When they decide to say we resign to fate, you should be worried. Silence is ominous. So when they say, we are used to it, let's leave it that way. We have been killed. Imagine what was happening in Kaduna and Katsina, where protesting citizens, Kano and Kaduna had to jump on armored. If we had been Southeast, how many people would have gone down by now? You are talking of one. I just saw your reviews, and they are talking about one person, and there is hysteria everywhere. But what of a case where hundreds, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 have been just eliminated, and nobody asks questions? So when a people in a nation are calm and angry, calmness can also portend anger.
All right.
Not necessarily against the present administration, though. Not necessarily.
Okay. I want us to talk about something that I had seen. The leader, a traditional leader, the national vice president of the Igbo social cultural group, Damian Okeke Ogene, had talked about, in an interview, talked about how the Igbo people were treated. And I'm going to quote what was said. He said that the people of the region had become tired of seeking freedom, relevance, and equal treatment in Nigeria. The traditional ruler also said that the region had also been frustrated with their failed quest to produce Nigeria's president. So now we have cried enough, we have been cheated enough, we don't have anything to do, so we instead kept quiet and started praying to our God. Whenever God feels to answer us, we are descendants of Israel, he will answer us. Anyway, but you've heard what he said. You know, I'd like you to maybe further elaborate on what this thought process might be like, and you know, if some of the things or the points he has highlighted are part of the reasons that Ndi will refuse to be a part of this process.
It's not about president of Nigeria. A president of Nigeria with the configuration may not favor the Igbos. Take it from me. And a few of us Igbo instruction, maybe to ask our son, we have made it to the, but that is not the issue. We had chief of army staff, a population of Nigeria that many Igbo, and so that is what I'm saying is not fundamental. The fundamental thing, and which the president that I wish well, Bola Tinubu, I wish him well. Never mind the accidents and Bobby traps he couldn't see and is bumping to. What I expected to see in his address would have been that even the pattern, even the divisions are shown in the process are lessons for proper development of Nigeria. He decided to protect them. What he's telling you is that the nation is highly polarized and no meaningful development can take place under this atmosphere. That is the truth. It's a journey gradually towards normalization of Nigeria. God forbid. I love this country. That should be a baseline for the black man all over. But we must do things properly. If you were to address cardinal issues, it's not about even Igbo presidency, like I'm telling you. It's now an urgency of the Nigerian nationalities to say what they want. Do we agree in Nigeria? Which the answer is likely to be yes. And we say, what is the vision? What is the template? So all this issue of, I am a journalist by training. I practiced in Lagos before coming back to go into public service. When I go back to every paper where I've worked that I stocked in my study magazines, where the issue of petrol has been there since we found oil in this country. All right. The issue of electricity has been there. I'm with you.
Yeah, Honor, just final question. I would like that you quickly also respond to Governor Peter Umba, Dave Umahi, Hope Uzodimma, and a few others. I've seen reports, of them commending people from the Southeast for not taking part in the protest, against President Bola Tinubu. Is there a lot of people in the Southeast that agree with, those views from their governors, from the Southeastern states?
We have gone past the governors, people who enjoy the takes of office talking. We've gone past that. No governor was responsible for the attitude of the Igbos, you see. It's just self-wisdom. If you have tried it in and say, Igbos have made the greatest contribution to create the modern Nigeria. You have had where you are, I don't know where you are, whether you're in Nigeria or in Lagos. You are hearing Igbo must go. Because we left here and we feel that wherever we go, we make it a home, that Nigeria should be a home to all. So Igbos have made the greatest contribution to the modern Nigeria. So it was not by the instrument. We've gone past governors taking position. They can take position for self-survival. But the Igbos have shown you that they can do. Nobody went to a meeting to say in Enugu or in Imo also. But the general feeling is that we are used to. This is something we have been clamoring since we were defeated. We agree we were defeated. But we think that we can build a new nation where the industry and vision of the Igbo man can be given a vent. But it hasn't been so. So it's unfortunate. What I'm saying is not even an ethnic thing. Ethnicism should be condemned. Religion, we've tried it, it's not working. Let's sit down and decide the Nigeria that can work for us. We have university who produce, including people like you. Somebody was even telling me the other day, the last interview I granted their correspondent, he said, media is responsible. When will we stop displaced aggression and misdirection of issues? The cardinal problem is what kind of Nigeria do we want and what is the pathway? What is the template for developing Nigeria? So I think that is the cardinal question. We've gone past whether Governor Mbang spoke or he didn't speak. What is the other one? Imo State. Whether he's we've gone past there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've gone past
there. Yeah. Well, interesting, and I'm guessing, for those who are watching us from the Southeast, I'm guessing a lot of them will agree with you with regards to the representation that they feel from their political leaders. Honorable Igbo, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, we didn't have the very best quality of network from you, but we will, reschedule another date where we can have your thoughts on very, very topical issues aside the Southeast, general, across the whole country, on a later day. Thank you very much for joining us once again.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
With pleasure. All right. We've had a very interesting hour so far. Let's share with you a quick recap of some of the things we've spoken about in the past hour and also what comes up right next.
Protest groups embrace dialogue, reiterate demands. We had a guest join us to talk about it and what that would look like going forward. We also had the Southeast governors praise indigents for boycotts, #hunger protest, and we're joined by Honorable to speak about it. And family of the deceased boy allegedly shot by soldier demands justice. That was very, very, very heart-wrenching report by Emmanuel Bagudu. Well, we'll talk about that much later in the second hour, but let's bring you what's coming up next from Breakfast Central. Federal government puts hunger protest sponsors on watch list. We'll be joined by Amoyele Shawari to talk about this. And the newspaper front pages we'll be reviewing, opening the phone lines for you to join and be a part of the conversation. And then we'll head to X to see what Nigerians are saying, particularly about the killing of this 16-year-old boy by the army. All the way from the Paris Olympics, we're joined this morning by the publisher of CKN News, Chris Kende Wandu, as he joins us to review the newspapers this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning.
Can you please shake me? I need a little bit of a broad anointing because I need to go on holiday and the exchange rate is not really smiling at me right now. So let me collect the anointing for traveling abroad.
It is well.
Anyway, welcome back to the land of protests.
Thank you very much.
Let's go ahead and see what the papers are saying this morning and what the big stories are. Our first paper this morning is the Delhi Independent newspaper. End bad governance protest. Federal government rejects foreign interference. Launches probe into violence. Says Tinubu didn't take office to make life difficult for citizens. Drama as two lawyers appear in court seeking Rivers expenditure shut down. Economic sabotage. Count us out, NMPC Limited says. APC planning unrest ahead of gubernatorial poll. Edo government alleges. Protest. NSCDC arrests 12 suspects for vandalizing infrastructure in FCT. Army arrests soldier for killing protester in Kaduna. Protest burning politicians' houses could lead to anarchy NNPP wants. Insists government took people for granted. At the top of the paper, coup threat must be destroyed. CDS charges ECOWAS counterparts. And prevailing hardship temporary. I'm addressing challenges, says Tinubu. I don't know if this is referring to the recent video on Expo. We'll look at that much later. And if you can see the photograph there, is the MD of News Central presenting the report. Our lead correspondent, Bernard Akede, was attacked by thugs, and we made an official report to the police, and that was him presenting the reports there. But that's all that we have this morning on the Daily Independent. Let's head to the next paper.
All right. This Nigeria, or The Punch, one of them comes up right next, and we'll share with you on our screens. The Punch, yes, it says, hunger protest loses steam as DSS grills 7 foreigners. Police crackdowns, halt protest. US-UK demands dialogue. Northern governors relax curfew. Sanusi blames Kano looting on intelligence failure. Tension rise as a soldier shoots boy in Kaduna. We can also find top of your screen there. Crude crisis, National Assembly to probe NNPC, Dangote refinery. I think there's also a story on this Nigeria that talks about the probing of the $1.5 billion Port Harcourt refinery funds, or the whole project from the Buhari administration. Petrol queues may linger till next week, say marketers. Bottom of the screen, power generation hits 3-year high of 5,105 megawatts. EFCC quizzes Ogun officials over government funds, and we can also find Olympics. Gallant, the Tigers bow out in quarterfinals. They lost to the United States yesterday. Sad for them, but of course, you know, they've had a fantastic run so far. I think quickly on this, Nigeria, just a few stories there. Oil industry bleeding, NNPC's Kyari admits. Senate probes $1.5 billion spent on Port Harcourt refinery turnaround maintenance. I remember that from the Bola administration. It was promised that I think the maintenance will be done by 2019, I believe. Till now, 2024, we're still waiting for Port Harcourt refinery. CBN denies probing extortion allegation at EcoBank. Withdraw Lagos parking fees. It's illegal, says Femi Falana. Poverty will worsen if petrol subsidy returns, says NOA boss. And also, Tinubu to Nigerians, look beyond present temporary pains. Have faith in our ability to deliver. I'm going to start this morning with Chris Wandu, with the conversation we just had with Honorable Ralph Egbu. He joined us a few minutes, just before 8 o'clock. And we're having a conversation generally on the reaction of the Southeast to the protest. His views are the silence of the Southeast is also its own way of protest, not just against the current president, but against the Nigerian state itself, and how the Southeast has been treated. And nobody should look at it, that they, not protesting means that they are happy with the current administration. It's really just them maybe just signing off, generally and mentally and emotionally from the Nigerian project. So what do you think is the reason the Southeast was quiet all through the End Bad Governance protest?
Okay. I speak as a journalist or as somebody from the Southeast.
Both.
So that I know from what angle. But before doing that, let me just quickly say that news coming in that security agencies last night raided headquarters. None of the...
I think I see that on social media. I haven't seen it.
We need to point that it's very, very key. That news is coming in late, but as journalists, we owe it a duty to be able to inform the people before all sorts of news and bets that we've had. It was said that it's the DSS. Nobody has confirmed that. It was said that people who did themselves, I don't know what they're looking for, but I'm sure later today the NLC will come out to give a more broader angle to that. Then to your question, well, as a Nigerian, and I'm first and foremost an Igbo man before I'm a Nigerian. So, speaking on the protests, the Southeast have been protesting. Part of the protest has been the sit at home order that has been going on for over close to 2-3 years now. And the federal government have not been able to find a way of making sure that Nigeria, those of the Southeast are fully secured to be able to go out. Because sitting at home is not because they want to sit at home, but because they know that their lives are not secured if they do. And we don't have enough security agencies to be able to come out to protect them. So what would they rather do? They rather stay at home and go about their duties. But it seems to have relaxed now because recently I was in Southeast and I saw that people were coming out on Mondays. Not as much as it was in the past, but they're really coming out. Then the second thing, the Southeast have always bear the brunt, especially Igbos have bear the brunt of every successful protest in Nigeria, starting from 1966. One of the cause of civil war was because of, apart from the coup that happened, was the attack on Igbos in the north. Yeah. And so many of them were killed. And because of that, so if anything happens anywhere, most often than not, you come to realize that it's the shops of an Igbo man that will be looted. Most often than not. Let's even bring it home in Lagos. Few days before the protest, some people went to the market where the Igbos were. I said, you must not come out to protest, or else we are going to burn down your shops. And so there's always been this. So for the South, they just feel that it is better we just keep quiet and see what is going on. You understand? We've lost a lot as individuals, collectively and individually. So it is just better for us. Why don't we just? And that was it. It is not that the Southeast or an average Igbo man does not feel the pains. Of course, when you go to the market to buy, go to a petrol station to buy petrol, you don't present your ID card that I'm a Yoruba man or an Igbo man or an Hausa man. You understand what I'm trying to say? So those are bets. It is just a collective. And lastly, which is political, is a way of just saying that indirectly, don't you tell you people You realize that during the last election, of course, the South practically almost 90% of Southeasterners voted for Peter Obi. And they felt that that was the right man that they think that could be able to do the job. But Nigerians felt that, no, it is the other that President Tinubu is more preferable. And what I just say is that, okay, now we don't tell you now, this is what is coming out. But those are my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out that just before the protest started, Bayo Onanuga had already started throwing blame at Peter Obi and the IPOB.
Before, to go to that, the issues, and that was where I was waiting, when the president said that those that were fanning the ember of bigotry and the rest of them would be dealt with. And I thought that the president would have started with his spokesperson. Because Mr. Bayo Onanuga consistently, before the election, after the election, and even now has consistently taken it upon himself to be able to say things, Igbo-phobic, whatever it may be, because people don't understand what is going on. But that is how Rwanda started. This genocide in Rwanda started just like this, with certain pronouncements, and people just thought that it was a joke. And it was now moved from the social media to media and the rest of them. Over close to about 1 million Rwandese were killed. Now, some people have started a campaign that Igbos must leave Lagos within a certain period. Yeah. And we just glanced over it. Lagos State governors came out to make a statement. The president also made a statement. Nobody has been arrested so far. If we don't deal with bad behavior, there's always the tendency for people to catch on that and arrest it. We shouldn't take it as a joke. So that is my own personal opinion. We should be very careful some of these things. But if the president is serious about what he's saying, that is those that were behind some of these statements and reviews, I think he should start from his inner cabinet and call Mr. Bayo Onanuga to account for some of the things I've been saying and be posting. He doesn't stand tall as a spokesman of the president. He's the spokesman of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not that of APC.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk also about those on the watch list. The watch list. We've seen the government talking about how those who are sponsoring protests are on the federal government's watch list and that they'll be arrested. There's also allegations of foreign interference, as shown on the Daily Independent. It says federal government rejects foreign interference, launches probe into violence. So what are your thoughts regarding foreign interference? And I mean, they have said from a number of the releases we've seen that these foreign sponsors, they're not based in Nigeria. And the moment they step foot into Nigeria, they'll be arrested.
Well, I don't know who are on the watch list, so I don't know who they are referring to. So it's within the security agencies. But every country keeps a watch list, even the United States of America, even this thing. Recently, there was a drug baron or whatever that has been on the loose for a long time. That was recently, I don't know how they did it. It was one of the most notorious drug baron in the world. I don't know how they were able to do it. And the guy just found himself in a plane and landed in the US, and he was arrested a few weeks ago. He's a Mexican. So the government, through their agencies, have a way of putting people on watch list. And at whatever point in time, they decide if you come into a country and they feel that you're a security threat. So I don't know the criteria they're using, but the DSS, NIS, and even the Nigerian police have come to say that we've identified certain account numbers, we have blocked those account numbers, and we've put certain people on watch list, and when the time comes, we're going to get them. Let them do their job. It's not for me to do their job for me. But it should not be witch hunting. It should not be used for witch hunting. I've said it time and time again that protest in itself is a fundamental human right. No Nigerian can be stopped from protesting. Even as I am like this, I decide if I want to protest, as I'm leaving this office, I can protest and take a banner, write on anything, go and stand in front of your office. Your camera, you send in your cameraman, they'll capture me, I'll protest and ventilate my... But the fact is that at what point do you take it to? If it becomes violent, then it becomes an issue. Then talking about the one of foreign interference, I don't know the foreign interference, but the one I've seen is the people carrying flag, especially in the north. But the fundamental, we're leaving the main problem for me. It's not just about carrying flag. The fundamental for me is that the poverty level in the north, as we have seen with this protest, you come to look at that. If you look at those protesters in the north, you see the children between 6, 7, 8, 10. You don't even see an adult, most of them. You see them trooping out. You see how dirty they are. The north have become the poverty heaven, the poverty headquarters of Nigeria. Before you listen Nigeria is the poverty, what was it? The
poverty capital.
No, yes, yeah. Poverty capital, hunger capital or whatever of the world. Now the north is the poverty capital of Nigeria. Look at those children. You could see that these children, They are not eating. They are hungry. They are not going to school.
Yeah.
They should be more concerned. We should be more concerned.
Unemployed.
Totally. Is it not when you even grow up to that you start getting on the board? Look at those children and see their ages. And that was what I've been saying time and time again. The leaders of the North are not doing enough. We are sitting on a keg of powder. And most often, and I've said it, he who's ride on the back of a tiger most often end up in this. They have started, like the protests have ended. But you could see the effect in the North. When you look at the South, it fizzled after the president broadcast and the rest of them. But on a daily basis, you go to the North, if you see the level of poverty, the amajeris. You go. I said it on this program or on some other program. That was the time I visited the North. I visited Bauchi actually, and I just came down from the bus. We came back from the bus. We were journalists. We were taking there. No, it was Borno when the military invited us to Borno to see what was happening in Maiduguri. And we just came down from the bus, and you saw the way these students swarm around us. And you just buy some like a bread or what you had. Before you know it, somebody has snatched it from your back, and they'll be fighting among themselves. And that is some of them have not had their bath for weeks. Those are young minds. Yeah. And it is easier for people. Anybody, when you talk of insecurity, it's easier for anybody to be able to. To be able to lure these students, 500 naira, 200 naira, and you can get them to commit all sorts of things.
So, I mean, whether it is a person luring them or it is them just, the poverty itself.
It is a reaction. It is a motivating. It is motivating. What I said, luring them, when I'm talking about like Boko Haram now.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
You understand what I mean?
I'm just pointing out the fact that we've always known about this fact.
Yeah.
About the level of poverty and unemployment in northern Nigeria. Yeah. But it seems to have been kept that way. There's no deliberate effort.
It is a deliberate attempt by the leaders of the North to do that, to suppress those kids. And you know the funniest part of it? Most of them have their children, they send their children to Harvard, to Oxford, and other universities, all the big universities in the world, where they will study and come back and not get themselves into these so-called juicy offices in London. Meanwhile, it is a deliberate attempt by the leaders in the North, the oligarch in the North, to make sure that these children are just kept at that poverty level, so that you can be giving them handouts and use them. Doesn't it surprise you that these are the same children that were used during election? You remember vividly, we were talking about underage voting. During election, you see them 7 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, and all of them troop to voting centers and line up to vote. Even INEC was called, I think it's last election, that said, what are you doing about this underage? And they said there's nothing they can do about it. But after using them for those voting, they discard them and leave them on the
I think I spoke about this early in the week or sometime last week about a BBC media report, about the poverty in Katsina State, northern Nigeria, but their focus was on a particular, IDP camp in Katsina State. And the report stated that there was 4.4 million malnourished children that were, facing the risk of death in Katsina State, alone in Katsina State. And this is a state that had a president for 8 years.
Not 8 years. When you say 8 years, it was the former head of state as well. So when you count the former head, you still count him as the former head, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. You count him as the former head of state. So it's not just 8 years that has been. And the annoying part is that you know that during the time of Goodluck Jonathan, he tried to make an attempt to build their majority schools for most of these children. I expect somebody like former President Buhari to have even continued with that. But they left
nothing like that. Hold on. Good morning, Usman.
Good morning.
Morning. Quickly, go ahead.
Usman, for calling from Abuja.
All right. Please go ahead.
I have a little contribution to the studio there. My concern is just one. Every other thing in Nigeria centers around food for now. Food is the only major problem. Why don't the government do something about consumption? One, you discover that the moment Nigerians are well fed and they have their food on their table, all these problems will subside gradually. Is it that the government is not aware that people are hungry? We're not saying come and share money for people palliative. Look, rice should go back to what it used to be. In the first place, do we have anything in stock like that? Are we really stocked for food? Where is the food coming from? If they need to open the border, at least government to government, Benin Republic is flooded with a lot of rice from so many other countries that is stocked there because Nigerians used to buy all these things before. Government to government, that is the government of two countries like Nigeria and the Benin Republic, can go into agreement and they will flood Nigeria with food over a period of time, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. By the time that one is done, they can close back the border again. That's my contribution. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Usman.
Thank you very much, Usman, for sharing that. I mean, we'll come back to talk about that. But I just wanted to refer back to what you were saying. I think you had talked about the BBC expose using Kaduna State as an example. Is it not interesting that this same Kaduna State governor that we had been talking about, that I mean, you mentioned that the state had a governor. He's been criticized recently as well because he's been made the chair of Tet Fund Board. And they're saying, okay, this man was once a governor of a state for 8 years. What could he show in these 8 years that makes him have the quality, the character that will make you think that, or what are his results that makes him fit to be Tet Fund, chair?
Boss, yes. So, you're talking about Aminu Wasari now.
Exactly.
Yeah, who was just appointed.
It's just patronage. It's patronage. And that's what we look at, even those that look at the cabinet of the president. You can just pinpoint maybe 1 or 2 out of the 40-something minister that you can say that actually working. And that's a fact. Probably the Minister of Interior.
All right.
And whoever one. Which other one? I don't know. You know, and that is out of 44 or 45. And the president is creating more. The fact is that until we get, and that is why we are having serious problems. Because we're not putting the right people. Because we're not putting the right people.
Even though that was one of the things that the president was touted to be great at.
That is what part of the thing.
Right people, technocrats.
Even cutting down on governance.
All right. Let's hear from Collins. Good morning, Collins. Thanks for calling. Collins, we can't hear you. Can you please speak up and turn down the volume of your TV set?
All right, please go ahead, Mr. Wando. I want you to speak now on the Senate probing a $1.5 billion spent on Port Harcourt refineries turnaround maintenance.
I was laughing last night when I was watching the GMD of NNPCL saying, we are not thieves. Which one again did he say? We are not thieves, we are not this and that. Nobody is saying you are a thief. The fact is that the fact speaks for itself, as we say in law. There millions and millions of dollars have been budgeted for turnaround maintenance of the refineries in Kaduna, the one in Port Harcourt, and also Warri, for years. Until today, we don't have a single drop of petroleum product. And the question will be asked, what were those money used for? So that is what the Senate is. In as much as people are enthusiastic, as I've always said, I don't see anything coming out of it. We've had worse or better probes in the past, and at the end of nothing comes out of it. What happened to the power probe that was led by Ndudelumelu in those days? What happened to the NDDC probe, the off the mic, on the mic, and the whatever mic? What happened to so many other probes in the past? I just feel that most often they are not. Our National Assembly, when they have nothing doing, they just want to look at and build on people's emotions, and probably with all sense of respect, because some of these probes come with some entitlement as well, if you understand what I mean. When you start looking into digging inside, you should understand. I don't want to speak for that and that. But it will be good to see what they will say. I was happy the NNPC GMD was saying that, we want it to be broadcast live. Watch it on News Central. Let them come and pay. They should pay you. Not broadcast. You shouldn't broadcast live and just not live. That you have bills to pay. They should pay you people to broadcast it live, because that is where you put it. Or else your salary will not be paid. They are making so much money. But the fact remains that I have said it time and time again that the NNPC is one of the most corrupt institutions we've had in Nigeria. And that is a fact. It is. If you know the rot that goes on, that is why you see we are talking about the big men and the rest of that. Is why they want all their children to be there. Anyone that graduates, they will want to find them. Anyone that wants to do IT, go there to go and see all the people working there. The people like you and I will not work in NNPC now. Forget it. How you want to do it? If you have a first class in petroleum engineer, you know go find yourself in NNPC. But I hope this will be a different one entirely. Let me just be as optimistic I should be. Although I'm a pessimist on this matter. But let me give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. But I can tell you that in the next 6 months, we'll come back and sit down here to discuss the issues being raised. The fundamentals is that Dangote says he's not getting crude oil. Are we giving him crude oil? There have been so many things I've heard in the latest and rest of, oh, Dangote is not this, is that, is a multiplier and rest of that. If your own refinery is working, are we going to be burdening ourselves about Dangote? We won't now. If last year they promised that the refinery will start working in December last year, they shifted the post to March. From March, they moved it to June. They've not, which is the last one they said?
August we have now.
Oh, they say August. Is it August or
yes.
10%? Oh, August.
Yeah.
Don't worry now. So August, I mean, today, not 10th.
Today's 8th or 10th of August.
About 10th or there. We still have about 20 days to go. Let's...
8th.
No, today's 8th.
Oh, today's 8th.
Yes.
I'm too forward. Fine. Oh, well, I just came back.
All right.
Yes, but the fact is that nothing will come out of this probe. Let them prove me wrong.
This probe will favor us and our...
Lórúkọ Jésù.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us. And that's all that we have with the papers this morning. We'll go on a break. And when we come back, I'll be heading to X to see what Nigerians are saying about the killing, unfortunate killing, of Ismail Mohammed. How was Ismail Mohammed, a 16-year-old boy who lived in, Kaduna State, how was he killed? That's a question that's on the mouth of a number of Nigerians. Who killed him is not in doubt. The army has put out a statement, but then the reports that we're seeing from the army and the Nigerian citizens is completely different. The army has released its press release. The director of Army Public Relations, General Onyema Nwachukwu, confirmed this, and there was a press release. He says, yesterday on the 4th of the nationwide End Bad Governance peaceful protest, the president finally addressed the nation. No, I do not believe that this is the correct one. Can we please double check? No, this is not it. We have a press release, and in the press release, he was stating exactly what happened, stating that they were arrested, that they had arrested the army official who had killed the young man, and talking about the fact that they had done a warning shot. Now, here's the correct one. On 6th of August 2024, troops of the Nigerian Army received a distress call that some hoodlums gathered in Samaru in large numbers, burning tires on the road and pelting stones on security personnel. The troops immediately mobilized and arrived at the scene to disperse the mob and enforce the curfew imposed by the state government. On arrival at the scene, the hoodlums brazenly attempted attacking the troops, prompting a soldier to fire a warning shot to scare the hoodlums away, which unfortunately led to the death of a 16-year-old boy, Ismail Mohammed. The soldier involved has since been arrested and undergoing interrogation as at the time of this report. Saddened by the unfortunate incident, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Abiodun Lagbaja, has sent a high-powered delegation led by the General Officer Commanding 1 Division, Major General Landa Saraso, to visit and condole with the family of the deceased. The deceased was buried according to Islamic rites with senior military officers of the Nigerian Army in attendance, and it was signed by Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, the Director, Army Public Relations. Now, as we all know how it works on X, you can put out one thing, but through community notes, we can get to see what the other position is. And there were several links on community notes that sort of debunked what was said. We can put, if I have my producers put the community notes up on screen to show that it had debunked what exactly was said regarding that. And, in the community notes, they had put up a link, and one of the link leads to the Vanguard newspaper report. And on the Vanguard newspaper report, we had seen there that they had said that, no, it wasn't a warning shot, that it was actually the fact that the young man was at home and that the army came and shot at him in his home. That was what the Vanguard newspaper report said. But now let's get to the tweets to see what Nigerians are saying about it on X. Our first tweet is from Wemimo Adewuni. And Wemimo Adewuni, of course, had said that the army had no they had no right to be there. Let's take a tweet. Can our producers please project the tweet? Wemimo Adewuni said, "You have no business in civilian protests or enforcing curfews. The police are abusive enough. They had stones, you shot guns. This is an abuse of office. The persons who ordered you to go there must resign immediately. Hashtag end bad governance in Nigeria." Dan Bello says, "Warning shot, was the boy flying?" And the next tweet was from Mwafresh, who says, "On arrival at the scene, the hoodlums brazenly attempted attacking the troops, prompting a soldier to fire a warning shot to scare the hoodlums away." This is where I stopped reading. If you want to take responsibilities for your actions, you do that without making excuses. A trained soldier should know how to fire a warning shot. And the next tweet is from Yesia Kugu, who says, "The 2 bullets that killed the teenager in his home were not stray bullets. They were bullets deliberately shot at him while he was closing the door of their house. We demand justice and for the perpetrators to be arrested and charged with cold blood murder." And away from that, Ben Samuel says, "This is called negligence, leading to the avoidable and needless death of an innocent person. No sane country responds to riots or protests with AK-47s or other dangerous weapons. The UK is currently facing similar changes or challenges, yet not a single weapon is deployed. They are arresting and prosecuting offenders. Someone must be held accountable for this failure. Police dogs, human shields, and water cannons are enough to manage protesters. When are we going to learn? Offensive weapons should only be used against bandits and terrorists. And the next tweet we have from Prince Moses Ogbeche, who says, why are our security forces not using rubber bullets in this time and age? This, just further highlights the confusion on the faces of Nigerians. We had a conversation with his father, Emmanuel Bagudu, our correspondent in Kaduna State, did a report. And in the report, he showed the evidence of where the bullets passed through the wall and the door to prove that actually it wasn't a warning shot. And this young man was not a protester, contrary to the image that is being painted on social media. So again, we ask, Nigerian Army, how was Ismail Mohammed killed? How was he killed? Nigerians deserve to know this. The parents of the young boy deserve to know this. And at the end of the day, justice needs to be granted. I don't know what justice would mean in this case, because at the end of the day, he cannot be brought back to life. But justice will be that whoever it was that fired this shot, comes to face the law. And that's all that we have this morning on What Nigerians Are Saying.
Welcome once again. Now, following incidents of violence that have erupted in many cities in the country due to the End Bad Governance protest, the Nigerian government said it has identified some diaspora sponsors of the protest and has put them on a watch list. Speaking during a combined news conference by heads of security agencies and service chiefs convened by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja, the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Kemi Nandap, stated that they have deployed additional officers to borders and airports, noting that these sponsors will be arrested as soon as they return to the country.
Though Nandap did not mention any names on the watch list, however, The Sun reports that a senior Nigerian immigration officer disclosed to his reporters that former presidential candidate of African Action Congress, AAC, and convener of Revolution Now movement, Omoyele Sowore, is on the government's watch list. Security agencies have identified and blocked bank accounts linked to the sponsors. Joining us this morning is the convener of Revolution Now movement, Omoyele Sowore. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for bringing me. Thank you. Good morning.
In response to this, do you consider yourself at risk? Do you consider yourself one of the sponsors of the protest based on the allegations that have been touted here and there?
Well, I have been on the watch list of Nigerian government since I was in the University of Lagos in I think I've been there since 1992. I found out when I was leaving Nigeria in 1999 that I've been on their watch list. So I don't know how many times they're going to put me on the watch list. But having said that, I'm very proud to be one of the privileged persons who is advocating for good governance in Nigeria. I did it against the military. I've done it against successive civilian regimes in Nigeria who have engaged in wanton corruption and destruction of Nigerian society. So I am glad that I got a honorable mention this time around again.
Okay, just to confirm, they say that accounts have been blocked. Have any of your accounts been blocked?
Well, they blocked the account of Take It Back movement, and we made it clear to, as far as last week, the UBA accounts of Take It Back were blocked by the government through the UBA, and they have not reopened it. So I would imagine that that's what they're referring to, but that's a waste of time.
Okay. Are you also familiar with anyone else who may have had their accounts blocked, and maybe seen as a sponsor of the protest?
I'm not aware. I mean, if there's anybody in diaspora at this time that's funding or supporting this, I would imagine that they won't be worried about that. The nature of money has completely changed over the years. The banking system as we have it now is a central system of money transactions. But there's a lot of other ways, digital currencies that are in existence. So I keep saying that these guys live in the past. That's why they still do things the old way. So I don't know anybody else, but I want to say that the diasporans don't need anybody putting them on a watch list. They need to be given the right to vote, considering that they send over $50 billion to Nigeria every year. And we have no any other option than to let them vote and let them be part of the conversation that goes on in their home country. But I guess these guys don't know any better.
Now, if you say that, I mean, you've said that you feel privileged that you've been given an honorable mention. For the longest time, what we've heard is that a number of people have said that the government has said that they do not know the face of the protesters and that the protest has been nameless and faceless. And now that they've asked for dialogue, is this something that you're open to? So walk us through the initial request when the government asked for people to send in the details for the leaders of this protest to identify themselves and send in details. Did you at any point, oblige the government to this request? And going forward, how do you perceive the negotiation will look like as one of the sponsors?
I'm not part of those who are negotiating with the government. I want Nigerian people to know that I do not intend to be involved in any negotiations with the Nigerian government. We are still
all right. We seem to have a slight issue with the connection with Omoyele Shore.
All right.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Shore. I think we have you now. Go ahead.
Yes. So we have we don't have any intention to get involved in any phony negotiation, so that tomorrow nobody comes around and said, "Oh, I was part of the people who is negotiating at the back end with the government." No, I'm not involved. I did not intend to be involved. End governance action is still going on as we speak. And the grand finale of the first 10 days will be on the 10th of August. So that's what we're working on right now.
All right. Before we come to what the protest will look like from the 10th of August or what the effect might be, in an interview on Arise TV, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole was asked if he knew the protesters. He, of course, said the protest was faceless. He didn't know who the leaders and the sponsors of the protest were. And your name came up. And he referred to you as an absentee desktop leader, a failed presidential candidate, and a politician, in some measure, a politician who is mourning his loss because you're in the political space right now. So you probably do not have the right to be calling names or calling out other politicians. What response would you have to him?
I don't pay attention to Adams Oshiomhole. I knew Adams Oshiomhole as far back as 1992, 1993, 94. They were the ones who sold out Nigerian people with late Pascal Bafia of the NLC at that time. So there is a wheeler dealer. What am I mourning, in an election that did not take place? I think they're the ones who are mourning. They are the ones who have to be on TV every morning just crying and sobbing and trying to defend the indefensible. I don't think it's important to waste my time. And, let me just brag a little bit here. I'm a presidential candidate, so I cannot be responding to a senator.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And you just spoke about the 10 days of the protest. So just share with us, what happens from day 10 if the response, I'm sure that you definitely saw the speech by Mr. President and the second one that was eventually then put down by Onanuga. But what happens from day 10 if the president's response, the Nigerian government's response, is still not satisfactory according to your standards and your demands? What happens from day 10?
We are going to make that decision when we reach that point. So it's we have an internal democratic system and consultation that happens on a regular basis. And we will let Nigerian people know what happens next after day 10. But it's important to let you know now that they have not addressed any of the demands. And so after day 10, of course, this will be escalated further and bigger to get to the root of our problems. So consultations have been made with regards to what will happen after day 10, definitely.
Okay. And looking at the protest so far and how it's, taking shape, would you say that the protest has achieved its goal? Would you say it has been a successful protest for the past 8 days?
It has been. I think I had this conversation with you guys on this show and several of your shows that when it was building up, nobody thought the protest would last for one day. It has lasted for 8 solid days. It has happened all over Nigeria and beyond. And I did not imagine that it would be this successful in terms of participation and level of awareness. I think we must thank the Nigerian people who participated and those who will still participate in further protests, that they have allowed the lion in them to be woken up, and there is no going back. And the fact that nothing else has been done in Nigeria except attending to this protest in the last 10 days, the fact that regardless of provocation, torture, killings, extrajudicial killings, harassments that have been going on, that people have remained steadfast. I cannot imagine anything more successful than this in a long time. So we will continue and we will resolutely and resiliently continue to resist this government. The resistance will grow, I can tell you that. And this is what I said last time I came to Nigeria in May of 2024, just barely 2 months ago, that the revolution that I've been talking about will happen in Nigeria, with or without me. And here we are.
All right, and there's also certain views that we've noticed in the last couple of days, which is that those who sponsored, those who supported, those who pushed for the protest should be held responsible for the loss of lives that have occurred across the country. Different news reports have 14, 17 different numbers, and of course even in northern Nigeria. And so what would your response be to those who say that you, as one of the supporters or sponsors of the protest, should be held responsible for the loss of lives and the destruction of property in different parts of the country as a result of the End Bad Governance protest?
I think the people who are perpetrating violence already knew that what they did is wrong, and they're already taking responsibility. The army yesterday killed a 16-year-old boy in Zaria, and they had to go on their knees begging the parents, even offering some paltry sum of money of 300,000 naira a head to the parents. So they already knew what they did was wrong, and they're taking responsibility. That's at the level of Nigerian Army. But the police has not taken responsibility. But everybody who engaged in killing peaceful protesters will be made to account for their actions. And that is where we stand on this issue. You have answered this last week here, that these are some of the senseless positions taken by pro-government mercenaries who are appearing as public opinion leaders, that peaceful protesters should be held responsible for violence that they did not perpetrate. So, but this is not something that will go away anytime soon. If you have killed somebody, or you've engaged in killing somebody, or you've tried to cover up the killing of Nigerians who are peacefully protesting, you are responsible for their death, and you'll be held accountable and responsible for it.
All right, and some of the criticism that we've heard leveled against this End Bad Governance protest is that it's a disguise to topple the current administration. What would your response to that be?
Every administration that is faced with this level of resistance by the citizenry for bad governance always claim that they want to topple the government. Well, it is the government that's toppling itself with bad policies. So there is no reason responding to something as irresponsible and illogical as this. If people want to topple the government of Nigeria, I don't think they will hide it. They won't hide it. And the people who get into government illegitimately through the back door understand how governments are toppled. However, it's important to note that it rests with Nigerian people to decide which government they want to continue with or not. So I am not going to sit down here and say that if the government keeps killing people, keep killing them with bad policies or using force to annihilate the Nigerian people, that Nigerian people will keep watching them forever. No, that will not happen. So government exists at the behest of the people, not the other way around.
What does this mean for you in the coming weeks, months? What does this mean for you and your future here in Nigeria? Now that if it's confirmed officially that you're on that watch list, and of course they had said that anyone who's on the watch list, as soon as they come into Nigeria, they'll be picked up. Do you fear for yourself? Would you be coming back to Nigeria anytime soon?
Yes, I'll be back very soon. I promise. And they are at liberty to pick me up, to detain me as they did in 2019. But the focus should be the struggle. It shouldn't be about me. And I have dedicated my life to making Nigeria a better place, a better country, a better society. And I knew from day one that this could cost me a lot, and it has cost me a lot. And there's no going back now. It's too late.
All right. Omoyele Sowore, thank you very much for joining us this morning and for sharing updates with us. We would, of course, wish you a great day ahead and look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much, and have a great day too. Thanks for bringing me.
You as well.
You as well. All right. This is where we say goodbye. Thank you very much to our viewers and those who also called and those who are watching us online. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. We're going to be back again tomorrow morning. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Have a good day.